Hello, everybody. Welcome along. Cricket Badger. I keep saying Happy New Year, Happy Christmas to people, saying this is probably the last one we're going to do. And then we come back again. So we're here again. Anyway, it's James and Lucas, as often is the case on the Cricket Badger podcast. And today, Lucas, we're going to do it slightly differently. You're going to lead because we talk about all things England and the Champions Trophy and what have you today, aren't we?
Oh well, what could go wrong there? Me worrying about England white ball cricket. But no, we'll give it my best and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all the cricket badgers out there. But no, I'll do my best.
I mean, they've announced the squads today, Lucas, I mean, I put them on the screen at the start there, but I'll put them on again now so we can maybe just talk through them a little bit, because I mean, there's the same squad basically, but just with one difference. I'll take that banner off so you can see the bottom. I mean, I'll go through the ODI squad. Champions Trophy is obviously ODI, so this is the main squad. But England are touring India for both ODI and T20 in the run-up to the Champions Trophy. So Josh Buttler in both squads as captain, understandably. We've got Jofra Archer, Gus Atkinson, Jacob Bethell, Harry Brook, Bryden Carse, Ben Duckett, Jamie Overton, Jamie Smith, Liam Livingston, Adil Rashid, Joe Root, Saqib Mahmood, Phil Salt and Mark Wood. Good to see Mark Wood fit and back in the squads there. The only difference between the ODI squad and the T20 squad is that Rian Ahmed is in the T20 squad, Joe Root back in for the ODIs.
Yeah, looking at the squad, I was a little bit surprised with Joe Root, because I honestly thought in the ODI squad, I was surprised with Joe Root. Mainly because, you know, he's played a lot of cricket recently. I understand this is a major tournament that England want to win. Historically, England have been very good in white ball. You know, they've won trophies. So I was a little bit surprised with Joe Root. But if you look at the squad, the ODI squad in particular, it's basically like a test team, really, without Ollie Pope.
There's a lot of talk about the fact that McCullum's obviously in charge of the white ball team now. This is his first real squad. Real serious squad, really. And I think there's a bit of McCullum stamped all over this squad with, obviously, I think he's, you know, a good player's a good player, full stop. You know, if you can play cricket, if you can bat in all formats. You just need to maybe just kind of change it a little bit. The one thing that people can't do is if you're a T20 biffer, you can't play Test cricket necessarily. But if you're a Joe Root, you can play all formats and you can adapt your game because he is quality, currently the #1 test batter in the world. And I think with Rooty, there was a case of keeping him, you know, managing his workload, because he's obviously potentially all formats, probably not T20 anymore, but potentially all formats. But because he's pivotal to the test team, let him concentrate on test cricket. And then I think he was always going to be brought back in because everybody knows how good he is. And you know, for a major tournament, he's been brought back in for the run-up to and including the Champions Trophy. So I don't think that is particularly a surprise. Maybe the surprises come with who's been left out a little bit. A little bit of talk on social media this morning surrounding Sam Curran. Sam Curran was in the West Indies with England, isn't included in this squad. And if we talk about Sam Curran very briefly, I think he. I've said a lot on here that I like him as a cricketer, and he's had his highs. You know, he's man of the tournament in the T20 World Cup, IPL, big money purchase. Didn't necessarily back that up, but I think his highs are high. His lows are quite ordinary, and it's the consistency with Sam Curran. He would, I think, probably be in most of. If I was picking for all three formats myself, he'd probably be in all three squads. He wouldn't be in the first 11. So he's for me, he's always somebody that's in conversation. He's always somebody to go to as a bit of a backup, but he's not necessarily somebody that you want to be seeing in there as first choice. And obviously Brendan McCullum is thinking along those lines as well. And if you look at the squad again, you've got obviously in terms of the all-rounder positions, Bryden Carse has obviously come in and made a real fist of international cricket in the Test arena. He's played a few ODIs before, and I think you've got Jamie Overton in there too. And it annoyed me with Jamie Overton that they played him as a number 8 with without bowling, which seemed, the specialist batter he is not. But if you play him as an all-rounder, with lower order runs coming quickly and the ability to bowl in those middle overs as well, then I think he's a real asset to this team. So you've got Brydon Carson, Jamie Overton potentially playing that Liam Plunkett role from the 2019 World Cup. And then the other surprise is Will Jacks, who was opening for England in the Caribbean. Obviously didn't score very many runs, didn't necessarily do himself justice. I think he was frustrated. There were a couple of interviews with him out there, and he knew he wasn't scoring enough runs. But with the rise of Jacob Bethel on the international ranks, they've obviously decided to go with Bethel instead of Will Jacks, which I'd imagine was quite a tough choice, because Will Jacks on his day can play some seriously good cricket, but I think Jacob Bethel has really shone since he's come into the England squads, and fair play to him. I really like what I see with Jacob Bethel, and even if the Champions Trophy isn't gonna, he may star in it, but if this isn't his tournament, then I think it does no harm to get Jacob Bethel into a major tournament setup to see what it's all about, so that next time he'd be ready. But hopefully he's ready already. I mean, he's done nothing wrong particularly so far in his international career, and deserves the call up. So I don't think there's too many shocks in there. I potentially really like this squad, Lucas. I think if you try and trim out the first 11 from it, it's quite strong. Personally, I mean,
especially the bowling. Now they've got Jofra Archer in here. Jofra Archer, we all know his injury problems, but he's a bowler that England want to take to the Ashes, and England also play a lot of Test cricket next year as well. Zimbabwe, they've got a five test team against, five Test series against India, so that's 6 Test matches. And then this Champions Trophy, so it's a lot of work rate for the bowlers, because there was Carson there, Woods in there, Archer's in there, so there's not much for a rest. Now whether Archer plays games against India, that remains to be seen. But yeah, there's not much rest there. You want to keep, as we mentioned in other trades, you want to keep those fast bowlers fit and ready to go for the Ashes.
I think if you look at the fixtures, you go into these warm-up games. There's quite a lot of them against India. They travel all over India, and India's a big country, so there's it's a fairly tiring schedule in the run-up to the Champions Trophy, and then obviously you got the hopefully a month of Champions Trophy all the way through to the final, and then anybody that's playing in the IPL probably gets straight on the plane from the Champions Trophy final to back to India to play in the IPL. So you're on that treadmill, the white ball treadmill, for January the 22nd, my birthday onwards. So there's just a little hint, Lucas. You can send me something. But so there's not. I would imagine with Mark Wood and with Jofra Archer, they will either rotate those two, or they'll certainly treat them with kid gloves. They won't be playing all of those matches. I'll be really surprised if they play the majority of them. Really, you've got some other bowlers in that lineup to carry the carry the heavy burden and try and ease Jofra. I mean, Jofra, to be fair, since he's come back, looks fit, and he's getting better. So I don't think there's any immediate injury concerns with Jofra Archer, but equally you don't want to batter him to death so that he's injured again. And Mark Wood's obviously easing back into the frame, so hopefully Mark Wood's fit and firing, and he can go all the way through to, as you mentioned, the Ashes, because it's a big year for English cricket. We're starting with these one-day matches through Zimbabwe, through India, into Australia. There's a lot of cricket ahead. So if you're going to get injured, this isn't the year to do it. This is a kind of like marquee year for English cricket. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Jofra, Mark Wood, etc., can stay fit.
Surprised, as you just mentioned a little while ago, McCallum's thumbprints is all over this. Are you surprised that Stokes hasn't been called, or at least had a talk to? I know Stokes said he's retired, but being McCallum and all that,
I mean, Stokes' retirements haven't always been solid, have they? Because he's come back in before. But I would imagine there were conversations, because for me, Stokes' best format is ODIs. Somewhere in between T20 and Tests, I think, is probably the format that suits him the best. But I would imagine any chats that they have had, and I'd imagine there were some. How serious they got and how close they got to it, I don't know. But I'd imagine any chats they have had were probably sort of taken away from them by the fact that Stokes got injured in that last test against New Zealand. So, however, bad that injury was, it's just a reminder, isn't it, that he's not the superhero sometimes people make him out to be. He can't do everything. He can't save the world, the planet, and make England win every match. So I think he's got enough to concentrate on with the Test cricket. As I say, big series coming up in the Test arena. They will want to get Ben Stokes fit, firing in all departments for India and Australia. That is their key goal. And if they will get huge amounts of criticism if in the run up to the Champions Trophy or during the Champions Trophy, Ben Stokes goes down with an injury, which basically rules him out for a year. And then that's possibly even his retirement. So, they've got to treat him with a bit of respect as well. It's a little bit about looking after somebody's body, looking after their well-being and all the rest of it. But it's also about treating him as a human being and properly looking after him. I'm sure Ben Stokes would like to play in every match. But there's what he'd like to do and I'd like to marry Scarlett Johansson. But for some reason, she's not keen. But what you'd like to do and what you can do is a different thing. And Ben Stokes maybe just needs to take a reality pill, doesn't he? And realise that his body's not getting any younger. He's getting regular injuries and he needs to look after himself.
I think we all would like to marry her. But another person that I didn't see on there who's playing Big Bash. Yeah.
I know you Australians get up to all sorts, but I'm not marrying the same person you're marrying.
One day, one room, James. I've also noticed he's playing a lot of Big Bash. Ollie Pope is not in either of these squads as well.
Yeah, that doesn't really surprise me. He's not really been in the ODI sides for England. I played now. Has he ever played ODI cricket for England? He probably has played a little bit, but let me just check on that. But he's certainly
definitely
not.
As well.
Sorry, say again.
He also not in the T20 as well. He is playing Big Bash. He actually made a good 30 as we speak tonight for the Strikers. So he's in a little bit of form with that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's never played ODI or T20 internationals for England, so he's never been considered for that. He's had some good performances for Surrey in the Blast. He's, as you say, he's in the Big Bash now, and he's obviously using this downtime where he can rest to go off and play in Australia. This is the tough thing sometimes. I know. As a player, you want to maximise your earnings. You want to kind of maximise the challenges, don't you? But they get this time off, this natural time off, and go off and do something else instead. They play cricket, in the gaps which are designed for them to rest in. So, Ollie Pope in ODIs could be very good, and obviously he's got the capability to keep wicket.
He's actually from what
in that squad. Then there's 3 keepers in that Champions Trophy squad.
Well, I was just about to say he actually was keeping tonight. He's actually kept in the last 2 games for the Strikers, so they've made a decision that he's going to keep. So again, he gets probably more keeping. T20 is probably the most easiest format to keep to, but again, he's getting that keeping experience as well. So
the difference in T20, Lucas, is you don't have to actually take that many balls, because most of the balls being hit by somebody. There's not many leave alone shots in a T20 match, whereas obviously in Test cricket there is. But if going back to that squad that England have picked today, you've got I think 3 keepers in there. You've got Josh Buttler, obviously can keep wicket. You've got Phil Salt as well, and you've got who's the other one? Jamie Smith. Even Ben Duckett has kept wicket for Notts in the Blast in the past. They're not exactly short of keeper options, which is why Ollie Pope's kind of all-rounder possibilities don't really cut much of a rug in terms of that for Brendan McCull.
Well, Liam Livingstone's actually keeping as well in the Big Bash. Yeah, he made a hot. I don't know if you're aware of this, but he actually made a horrible error between when the ball goes up in the air and the bowler and the keeper couldn't quite decide who's going to catch it and decide.
That was Sam Billings.
Oh, sorry, Sam Billings. Sorry, I got him mixed up. That's how much I know Big Bash, James. Maybe I should stay in my lane. There we go.
I I saw that this morning. Sam Billings, it kind of came, it went straight up in the air in front of the batter, didn't it? The bowler was coming forward to take the catch. Sam Billings had done yes, mine kind of thing, run from behind the stumps, and then stopped dead, and they both left it for each other. Yeah. I was going to say,
So,
Liam Livingstone keeping in the T20 is not something I'm ever expecting to see.
Apologise to Liam Livingstone. Sorry, mate. Not that I'm not calling you a keeper, but apologies up front
I don't think Liam Livingstone would call himself a keeper, Lucas. I don't think you need to say sorry.
Oh, maybe I should pay attention more to Big Bash, James. No, but he was. Yeah, he's not in the squad either, is he? Sam Billings.
Sam Billings isn't. No, that's not a surprise, is it? I think Sam's time has come and gone in terms of his international aspirations. He's basically just ploughing his furrow around the franchise circuit, making a few quid before he retires, and no problem with that at all. But I think, as I keep saying, there's no shortage of keeper batters in England's setup, and when you've got the likes of Jamie Smith, you've got Josh Buttler, and you've got Phil Salt, you've got three pedigree keeper batters, and then you've got you've got even backups for them in Ben Duckett. So there's potentially four keepers in that ODI squad, which is bizarre, bonkers, isn't it? I mean, you don't need to even think about. Johnny Bairstow's name has come and gone. People don't even mention him anymore. And if you're not mentioning Johnny Bairstow, you're certainly not mentioning Sam Billings, with all due respect to Sam.
How serious are England taking this trophy, this Champions Trophy? Because this Champions Trophy,
I think they're taking it very seriously because they haven't had the best of times. If you actually analyse England's record across all three formats, Test cricket is a little bit in there in 2024. I mean, we on the podcast the other day I gave them 6 out of 10. It's not been a vintage year. It's not been dreadful. It's kind of like 50-50 in the win-loss column. But they've had Test matches which they should have won, and now they go into a year ahead where the Test matches get a little bit harder. There's kind of the tariff mark next to the Test against India and Australia is tougher. It could be a brilliant, vintage, awesome year for England, or it could be awful. In the white ball format, they've come off the back of some pretty poor performances in major tournaments. Josh Buttler started out with a T20 World Cup win under Matthew Mott right at the start of their tenure, obviously taking over from a very good side from Owen Morgan. And it's kind of gone downhill a little bit since then. Obviously, there's been some personnel changes, but I think there's every reason for England to really concentrate hard on this Champions Trophy, because if they fail in that, there will be a lot of questions asked of Josh Buttler. There'll be a lot of questions. Is McCullum the right man to take on all of this work? It's being hands-on kind of manager. I know they take some tours off, but being the hands-on man for all formats is quite a big workload, a lot to think about. So if they fail, if they fall flat in their face in the Champions Trophy, there will be a lot of questions, a lot of negative press. If they win it, then people can't do that, can they? And it gives them a bit of credit in the bank. So, and I think the squad they've picked gives them a chance. Somebody tweeted me their 11 this morning. I'll just read that out for you. And I think this is an 11 that if they're fighting fit, raring to go, and full of beans, this is an 11 that will challenge anybody in the tournament. Phil Salt, Ben Duckett to open. Root, Brook in the 3-4 position. You've got then Josh Buttler and Jamie Smith at 5 and 6 rather. Jacob Bethel or Jamie Overton, depending on the surface maybe. But Gus Atkinson, Bryden Cast, Jofra Archer, Adil Rashid. And obviously there's plenty in reserve from that as well. I think any player in that squad could play a part in this Champions Trophy in the Tour of India. And like I say, if they get on a roll, a lot of white ball cricket is down to getting that momentum going, getting the belief going, and starting to think, well, we're in a 50-50 position. Sometimes you get into these matches and you're in a 50-50 position midway through the second dig. And if you're on a bad run, you remember all the times you've lost from those positions, and it often manifests itself into another defeat. If you are on a good run and the momentum right behind you, you find a way to come from just behind in a match to still win it. And the other, equally the opposition to you, who will know that you're 5 matches unbeaten or whatever, suddenly starts to think, oh, we haven't won this yet because we're up against them. So getting on a roll in a tournament makes a big difference. So if England can get that going, get that momentum going, then I think they've got a real chance of getting to the latter stages. One of the things I'm not convinced with, I'm convinced with him as a player, is my namesake. I think Josh Buttler, as a player, when he's firing as a player, he's one of the best players in the world in white ball cricket. He's absolutely awesome. He can punish any attack. He can get important runs at just the right time. He seems to be able to pace an innings brilliantly. And obviously, as a fielder, as a keeper, he adds to the team in that respect. But as a captain, I'm not totally convinced. I did like what they did in the Caribbean, though, in that they took him away from the keeping role, and they put in another keeper in Phil Salt, and Josh Buttler then went into the mid-off position kind of thing, your more stereotypical captaincy spot, and was able to just concentrate on captaining in the field. Because I've seen him when you watch him in a match when he's keeping as well, you've got a lot to think about as the keeper. When you keeper and captain and the star bat, you are never off duty. You never get 5 seconds just to kind of like let your brain just turn off. And he, we talk about momentum. When the momentum was going against him in some major tournaments in recent times, he has got frazzled, and you could see him getting tired, a little bit tetchy sometimes in interviews, and it's taking its toll. And I think as a fielder, without having to think about actually catching every single ball, because despite the fact that you don't actually take every ball, you still got to concentrate on every ball because you might have to take it. So I think him as an outfielder and captain, I think he's a better prospect.
Well, I've been captain like as a keeper and a bowler, and from experience, I can tell you that keeping is way more difficult. Yes, as a bowler, you can overbowl yourself, but as a keeper, as you just mentioned, you think you never have time to relax, because you still got to run up and down. You still got to do that almost every ball. As
a keeper, you are, as I say, having to concentrate on every single ball, but as a captain, you should be concentrating 100% on your field. How many overs have your bowlers bowled? Who's going to come on next? Is the bowler doing the right thing? Have you got the field set right for him? Do you need to change your field? All those things going through your mind all the time. And then if you add in the gloves, that makes that boils over, I think. And I think, having him as an outfielder rather than as a captain keeper, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Especially in the white ball format where there's a lot of plans at the back end of overs. So you have to jog all the way to your bowler. You think of plans. Next ball, you have to jog all the way to your bowler. It can be mentally taxing, very mentally taxing.
I'll tell you, it's mentally taxing for me as well. I hate it. When we talk about slow over rates in Test cricket, but obviously you're on the clock to a degree in white ball cricket as well. And when you keep us having to run up to the other end every single, they don't do it every ball, but it takes ages, and then they have to trot back to their position. And you just end up. I end up just shouting at the screen, "Get on with it!" And you, as a keeper, I think it's too much to ask. I think him at mid off is a much better prospect. We've got a question, Lucas, from Amit. Actually, I think we've done the England's Champions Trophy squad. I think just to summarise, I think England have actually picked a very good squad there. I often find myself when I see things come out from England thinking, criticism. To be honest, got no criticism whatsoever with that squad. I think it's a very good squad. Just to round us off, though, Lucas, there was a question from Amit that's come in on the chat. He says, Lucas, how are you feeling about the Boxing Day Test, man? I think India is winning the series 3-1. 3-1? Yeah, 3-1. So Amit's looking at, but they've dropped what's his face, haven't they? The opener, and I saw him get interviewed, and he looks fine. He looks like he's just taking it on the chin. He's going to get on with it. But they've picked a number 3 or 4, put him as an opener, and then wondered why it hasn't worked. Kind of your typical current Test match kind of malaise, that, isn't it?
Oh, well, what a shock, James. A player playing in his not preferred position doesn't make runs. Well, that's a shock. look, if you're going to drop him three tests into a series, then why pick him in the first place? This is no shade on Sam Constant, who's his replacement. I love Sam Constant, so I think he should have been in from the first test. But to do that, it's basically making McSweeney the scapegoat. Khawaja's. I said last show we've hardly talked about Khawaja. Then he doesn't make any runs in Brisbane, his home test. Same with Labuschagne. Labuschagne, looked good in Adelaide. Now he's gone backwards. And statistically, McSweeney's made more runs than Khawaja. That's a statistical fact. So that
I guess the counter argument would be Khawaja's got plenty of credit in the bank. He's got thousands of test match runs. He's been in bad runs before. He's come off the back of bad runs before. Whereas obviously McSweeney's new to it. It's easier to turn around to a McSweeney and say, you've had your first nibble, you'll come back, you're only young, kind of thing. Whereas for Khawaja, if you drop Khawaja now, that's the end of him, isn't it?
Yeah, he will retire at the end of the series. Labuschagne as well. If he can't make any runs on Boxing Day, what do we bring in McSweeney for him? So it's just been announced that West Indies will play Australia in a 3-test tour. So they have time because before that, between Sri Lanka and the Ashes, there was 0 tests. Now there's 3 tests. So they can experiment if they want. I don't think they'll do anything with the bowlers, but
is that West Indies Test series in Australia?
No, in the Caribbean. Yeah.
I was going to say, Australia won't. Is that the West Indies coming back just to rub your nose in it, so we can beat you again? Yeah.
I don't think we can. I don't think we have stadiums to fill for the winter. But we tried that in an ODI series against Bangladesh, and it was hit and miss. No, to answer that question, if Australia do lose this Test match, they can't win the series, can they? And they can't retain the trophy. And then I think big changes will be forced. Maybe if Pat Cummins steps down, McDonald steps down as coach. I think there will be heavy repercussions.
That was Amit's follow-up, actually. He says, what do you think the repercussions would be for Cummins if Australia lose? Would he stay on as captain for the Ashes? And he very nicely says, love your show. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you very much. With bowlers have egos anyway. I had a massive ego. I'm no shame to admit that. But when you're this is a guy that got suspended one time. But when you're a captain, you don't want to step down. It's almost you have to be forced. Like we just saw with Tim Southey. Tim Southey was a bowling captain. He in a way got forced to step down. Then he's retired. Cummins will not retire, but he's still got a lot of petrol in the legs. But he can be forced to step down. Now, whether Cricket Australia want to do that, that's 50-50. As long with the coach as well. The problem is with the coach. The players, Pat Cummins wanted this coach. They said, what, we want this coach. We didn't literally just pushed out Justin Langer out the door and brought this coach in. So if you get rid of the coach, how do the players react to that? If you're bringing in a new coach. So if they do lose the series, I do expect some repercussions. They just can't say, oh well, it happens. They've got an Ashes coming up, for crying out loud. No disrespect to Sri Lanka or West Indies, but that's the best series, and you've got to do something.
For Pat Cummins and for McDonald, they've actually got quite a good record under those two.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not playing well at the moment, but do you actually bin off for Cummins and McDonald on the back of one series against India? Or do you actually kind of think bigger picture? Because we talked about this a lot. I don't worry, but I think about the strength in depth that Australia have, and there doesn't seem to be a huge amount in the batting ranks. When we're talking about Constas versus McSweeney, when we would have been talking about in the past Lehman against Hussey for a replacement, it's chalk and cheese. I mean, these are two very promising younger players, but they're not some of the players that would have come in the past. And McDonald, they've had good times. You've won global tournaments. You've done well. So I would, from a distance, and far be it from me to care about Australian cricket, but from a distance, I would say that Cummins is doing okay as captain. I would say McDonald's doing okay as coach. And what you need to find is a batting order that can actually support the bowlers rather than actually just chop and change the captain and the coach.
As well, they won the World Test Championship, so they won trophies. I think the Ashes was the biggest letdown, was the most disappointing because they wanted to win that series. They did draw it, they did retain it, but
didn't lose the Ashes. Yeah,
so. No, but they retained it the year before that under Tim Payne. So I think they wanted to do a step further. That was a little bit disappointing. They've been winning, but they haven't been. I think they haven't been dominating. Against Pakistan, that was a tough series. West Indies, they lost a test. New Zealand, that was touch and go in the first test. So they have been winning, but they've been struggling. India, not hardly anyone wins there. Congrats to New Zealand for doing that. So if you look at statistically, they have won the trophies. They won the World Test Championship, and we take that very seriously in this country. So if they did lose to India, let's look at the last time they lost to India. Tim Payne, Justin Langer were coach and captain. They both got forced out. So will this happen? Maybe, maybe not. But what's not against them, James, is age. Khawaja's 38. Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, they're around 35, 33. Lions, 35. So even Smith's 35. So they've got old. They're getting older, and if you're not in form, then questions are going to present themselves. And
in 4 years' time, in the next world cycle, it's going to be a very different looking Australia, isn't it? Because you've just mentioned those names. There's going to be very few of those still around in 4 years, if any.
I think at the very least they want to try to get back to the England Ashes in 3 years' time. They want all of the whole bowling unit. I don't see Smith doing that. Khawaja definitely not. But the bowlers, Nathan Lyons came out publicly 100 times and said, "I want to go back to England. I don't like how I got injured."
Nathan Lyons doesn't have to run in off 30 yards of a runner, does he? He just rolls it. So it's probably easier for him than a Stark or a Hazelwood. But if they did make a change, I think wrongly, but if they were to make a change and Cummins and McDonald were sacked basically, and they were looking for replacements, who would you want to see? Who would you pick as the next Australian skipper?
Well, it depends. If you want to go domestically, WA has dominated, the domestic competition for Australia the last 3 years. That's coached by Adam Vogers, who was a fine batsman, by the way. Statistically extremely good. So Adam Vogers could be an option. As far as captaincy, they'll probably go back to Smith. But then again, if he's not making runs, you're not going to give it to
any second.
But that's technically he's still vice captain technically, and he's taken over from Pat Cummins in when they went to India. He took over for 2 tests. One against West Indies when he was captain and opening. So I like to see Travis Head. I think Travis Head's a good captain, or Alex Carey. They captain their stateside, South Australia. When Carey was playing before this Indian series, he was terrific with his captaincy, outstanding. So I'd say Travis Head or Carey for captaincy, and Adam Vogers. I think he's great pedigree, great brain, and I love to see him coach. Obviously Ricky Ponting, but we've asked him 100 times, James. He doesn't want it for some reason. But I think Adam Vogers would be probably right on that list.
I think England asked Ricky Ponting as well. He just seems to be happy doing what he's doing at the moment, doesn't he? Kamal Bra says, "Hey, coach, is he one of your people?" Kamal Bra.
No, I don't think so. No.
Right, anyway, he says, "What's your opinion on bringing Webster in the place of Marsh for the 4th Test?"
Yeah. It might be one of my friends. Hello to out there. No, well, that should have happened in the first ball of the series, the first Test. No, Bo Webster. I think we've mentioned this. Bo Webster's averaged 70 this year with a bat domestically. He played in those 2 warm-up games against India A, like McSweeney did. Bo Webster, scored 140 runs and 7 wickets. He bowls a lot of overs, and his biggest strength with the ball. He's not a seamer, he's not a swinger, but he's a workhorse. He can bowl a lot of overs in the day. He's very good with the old ball. Very good with the old ball. He has just the knack of picking up wickets. He's not quick by any means. He's quicker than Marsh, if you've been watching his speed. But his last Shield game, he bowled 20 overs in one day. So he's a workhorse with his batting. He's a counter puncher. He likes to put pressure back on to the bowlers, but he can grind. There's some innings where he scored 80 ball hundreds, and there's some where he scored 170, 180 ball hundreds. So he's got a mixed pedigree when it comes to the batting. Very good technique. He's very tall as well. He's over 6 foot, James. So he gets a lot of bounce as well. Reason why he's also good with the new ball. So your guess is as good as mine why they haven't picked Webster over Marsh. I know why. I don't really want to make myself look stupid on here and say it, but I think it's time we move on from Marsh to better. So, but they seem to like him. So yeah.
Okay, well, that's our chat done pretty much for today. So a little bit of a chat about Australia against India, also a little bit, obviously, a chat about the England squad and the white ball squad for destined for India in the new year and the Champions Trophy beyond that. So it's going to be a busy time for all cricketers. There's not much time off, which is why it always makes me laugh, as I say, with the people like Ollie Pope who get a little bit of time off and then go straight off to play cricket somewhere else. But that's your choice, isn't it? Got to fill the coffers, got to make the bank account good whilst it lasts. And we should have said at the start of this, thank you to manscaped.com. So I'm going to play this advert now. And off the back of this, we will say goodbye and then we'll be away.
Here at the Shave Combine, the Dome Shaver Pro from Manscaped has dominated.
Scott, if we had this baby, we'd still be playing.
Prove it. That's skin-safe technology right there to help prevent Nixon cuts. Back in the day, this was all we had. We deserved better. Wow, each blade is in such close contact with the skin. And it's shower-ready, too. Visit manscaped.com now. I mean, you blew out your Achilles, but your head looks good.
And thank you to manscaped.com for the support of the Cricket Badger podcast. Much appreciated, manscaped.comers. Amit's route in the Champions Trophy is a great move. Think England have a good team. Absolutely adore Root. Well, what's not to like about the #1 test bat in the world, Amit? Anyway, thank you to Amit. Thank you to Kamal for your messages. Thank you to everybody for watching and listening. And we will be back just before the end of the year. So happy Christmas. We'll say happy Christmas now because you won't see us again until after Santa Claus has been. So hopefully you've all been good. Hopefully you get the presents and you're not on the bad list like Lucas. Then we will be back, I think on the 29th we agreed. I'm going to get as many of the fan badges from India, England, Lucas, if you can get up early enough, to come back on as a little bit of a look back, kind of a bit of a friendly, chatty look back at 2024. We're going to pick some trophy winners, best players and best teams and what have you. And we will finish the year on that note. But thank you, everybody, for watching and listening as we've gone through this year. Much appreciated. Enjoy your cricket. Enjoy your Christmases. Lucas, happy Christmas to you.
Happy Christmas to you, James, and all the Badgers out there. Have a happy new year. Don't like your chances, James, and me on that show, but we'll see. I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
We'll see if Lucas can get himself out of bed. Anyway, I'm just struggling. So there we go. I've lost the outro screen. Where have you gone, outro screen? Here we are. Happy Christmas, everybody. You see, the organisation doesn't get any better, but we try.
Merry Christmas.